Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, and hopefully at the right time here, as I hope you all are also driving safe and got wherever you're going safe today after that time change. Yeah, no, it's not 3 o'clock. It is definitely 4 o'clock. At the very least, it better be, because we're on air here and talking about the things that affect us here in the Borderland. So if you're on air with us online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, and some of us having a hopefully a very good day there as well, including Mark Mendingo expressing his love for all of us. So appreciate that, and thank you for tuning in and demonstrating how you can leave your comments throughout, including also dropping those likes and reacts over on the social media, including Ida Beza Gardner, Angel Rueda, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, as well as Ida Beza Gardner. Hello and wave with you as well. And Angel Rueda, definitely, yes, drive safe, everyone, with a thumbs up. Please keep your eyes on the road if you can, and hope you all got enough sleep for that last night, because there are some studies out there I've seen saying that this, particularly the morning driving, hopefully enough people have had their cup of coffee by this point today to get themselves more in a better state of mind, because, yeah, some studies indicate that essentially the average driver could be essentially, maybe not quite at the above legal limit equivalent, but pretty near like a 0.0 something equivalent. Not that they're actually drinking, but that's how much that even just lost hour and everything that comes with it can affect them out there. So hope y'all are safe. That's a long way to say that part. Yep, mentioning already there some of the things going on in our area, including, of course, there being a fire going on with the under construction still museum, the La Nube Children's Museum in downtown along Santa Fe and Main Street. That fire apparently knocked down now by this point, but still some impacts happening with, well, roads and roadways downtown, with Missouri and Santa Fe blocked off as of last check. And so, those not being clouds, the clouds you want anyway, coming from that building earlier today, but then also still fallout and more coming from the situation on the border over this weekend, specifically at some of El Paso's bridges and more. We'll be delving into that, what was going on, why there had to be that response coming from CBP, Border Patrol, and various other local and federal agencies present in our area, and what was going on there, kind of what the aftermath is. And there even already being new policies that have been probably in the works before this, but now being suggested even further when it comes to that. And yeah, we got the whole banking situation going on. Don't worry, we'll probably mention that a bit when it comes to what is going on more nationally, but even just in our local area, still have some more stuff going on, including as one of those gun safety bills that we have discussed previously is now headed to the New Mexico governor's desk, as we have a lot of other comments coming in, including George Zavala. Good afternoon to you as well. And Angel Rueda pointing out, yeah, it wasn't even just on the U.S. side of things, but responses happening from both sides of the border, frankly. So for anyone who was not paying attention yesterday or disconnecting, frankly, I don't blame you. Y'all got to get some time out from under the eye of the news at some point. But yeah, Avery and Monica Cervantes off today, got a pedicure. Well, congrats on that. Hope everyone stays safe. Definitely appreciate that. So again, for anyone unfamiliar or not even hearing those news updates, article title from our news partners at KFOX 14. Let's just start there. Large migrant group attempts to cross into U.S. through El Paso port of entry. And that the reporting coming out starting about mid-afternoon yesterday, Sunday, March 12th, as it has been various reports of between dozens to potentially about 1,000 that were approaching the specifically, I want to say it's the Paso del Norte bridge. It definitely involved the Free Bridge, the actual measures that were therefore further put into place. But also I want to say it was the Santa Fe bridge were the primary focuses of the response that we were seeing yesterday. A lot of reporting was going on in this, including some national stuff, as this does remind me of, we had talked in recent years, don't exactly remember when, about them being interesting quote-unquote exercises that had been going on at the El Paso ports of entry. To that point in time, there had not been anything kind of similar to this, so definitely different situations going on, but let's just continue describing it here for a second. That there was actually cameras on both sides of the border, both on the City of El Paso websites as well as individuals, again, kind of on either side, mostly then on the Mexican side, seeing kind of like personal camera and cell phone footage coming out of this, showing a large group essentially pushing their way past the Mexican side and the border gateway there, and then making their way up to the middle part of the, again, primarily the Paso del Norte bridge, and then also I think the Santa Fe bridge was affected here. There was a lot of video going on yesterday showing maybe even other smaller attempted crossings on, say, like the railroad bridge, and essentially, there was no crossing. If you're wondering in that announcement post that we have made, why we included that potential mass crossing. Attempted might be another way to describe it, because as it was, U.S. officials and authorities were essentially standing by at this point. It's been noted by a bunch of different stories, including from our news partners at KFOX 14. There were actually a lot of communication going on in this situation and overall between U.S. and Mexico border authorities, which is probably a good thing. I'm recalling even more where there was an incident where someone was fleeing El Paso area authorities, whether it was local or federal, don't remember exactly, but they actually managed to make their way across the bridge and all the way into Mexico because of I think some miscommunications going on there. So yeah, that previously has been part of the situation, so definitely don't mind there being some better actual communication. So part of that involved them letting them know that there was a group of people assembling around either late morning or midday yesterday, maybe even early afternoon, and then it was around about 2 o'clock, among other things, that we saw that group then again blow through or just completely run over not actually running over with a car, just as a group. This was on foot entirely, go just completely bypassing the Mexican side of things and going up to the middle. But again, U.S. authorities had been made aware that this was coming, and so there was no actual crossing into the United States from this group on the El Paso ports of entry. Now, there was a lot of impact that happened to people. I mean, we saw barbed wire being deployed, gates in some cases where they were available, temporary barriers, etc., and was in place for or measures of some kind in place for about 5 hours yesterday is what the sum total ends up looking like, because even after the group dispersed, they did keep the bridge not processing any further traffic until about 5 yesterday. So if anyone was crossing, impacted by it, wondering why there are long lines, etc., there's your explanation coming along with it. So what ended up causing or being part of this? Because sure, we've seen quote-unquote incursions or attempted crossings in other ways. One, not actually on the border, when there was a protest kind of along the Rio Grande near essentially Spur 1966 underneath the Border Highway West expansion near UTEP in, well, late last year, let's just put it that way. And that was, there was a standby there, and that was repulsed. But this one actually being on the bridges, what this happened by, a couple of two main explanations have been coming forth so far, including some misinformation and potentially frustration involving the CBP-1 app and related kind of processing systems. So I'll tell you what, we're due for that first break of this hour right now. Coming out of this, we'll talk further about that, what has been seen and what of kind of the current situation is. Again, apparently at this moment anyway, things are back open and fully have been since about, late afternoon, early evening yesterday. But we'll talk more about that, the situations as they are, as well as the other things we got going on for you here today. So you're, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. We'll be back right after this with more, discussing the things affecting us here in the borderland and more focus on these border situations, the policies going into and what might come next, as well as a whole lot more, including some state politics that are going into this, of course. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690. Earlier road construction and lane restrictions are causing I-10 to slow down between Red and Vinton, still a 25-minute delay. An earlier fire downtown, Main Street near Santa Fe downtown at the El Paso Children's Museum that they're building. El Paso Fire is concerned they've put that fire out. On Loop 375 southbound at Sergeant Major, the off-ramp is partially blocked till 5 o'clock for road work. Gary Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
What is it like to be a corporate executive with today's woke mob trying to hold you hostage? We'll talk to Jennifer Say, who lost her job for speaking out against school closures during COVID. Listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Our goal is to make March an all-time record month in sales, so we'll do whatever it takes to make a deal. Don't wait. Visit us today for huge savings.
Save big on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your car, truck, or SUV? We want it, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Right now, get $3,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500s, plus super low 4.9% APR for 72 months. Get $4,000 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport or $4,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L models. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Trade and upgrade for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 4.9% APR is $16.06 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
What's for dinner? Burgers?
After last week, no thanks.
Avoiding foods due to fear of diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools? It may not be just stomach issues. It could be EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. EPI can cause uncomfortable symptoms because it's a condition where the pancreas doesn't release enough digestive enzymes to break down food. But EPI can be managed. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor about your symptoms. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Standing up for what's right. Helping out when things go wrong. Seeking the truth and speaking our minds. Not just making records, but breaking them. Leading the way behind the camera, beyond the runway, and on the silver screen. Not just making our mark, but making a difference. Now that's a job for a Girl Scout. Girl Scouts, preparing girls for a lifetime of leadership.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, where most of the comments end up coming in. A lot of people dropping those likes and reacts, including Paco Jimenez, James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Angel Rueda, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. Don't want to, of course, miss over on the YouTube as well. Just the like, of course, not a like kind of thing. Again, share and subscribe and all that good stuff here. But RJ saying that the Biden invasion, I think we're combining some elected officials' names there, if I'm not mistaken, saying, and his disastrous policies, the result is unacceptable, and immigrants are paying a price also. Won't really disagree with you there, particularly since, I mean, this is not exactly a good thing to have happen. The situation being described ultimately as handled or chaos, that potential mass crossing, that I say potential because it didn't turn into one, but not for necessarily lack of trying. I mean, there was a strong response that was mounted on the U.S. side, again, in coordination, and even response on the Mexican side once things started moving, so to speak. So question is, why did this end up happening? Now, I've been talking more than a little bit about how a comprehensive need for immigration and border security is needed, because kind of only addressing one or the other can therefore lead to worsening situations with the other side of it. I know that that's not a terrifically popular political answer these days, but hey, there it is, because as much as, I have previously wondered about the need for security theater at the ports of entry. We're in a very different situation than we were even, well, let's call it a year ago at this point, when we're talking about the moves, the policies in place, and particularly what the conditions and not exactly the cartel marketing I've talked about before, but the information going through. So two major factors have been pinpointed as being contributions to what we saw there on Sunday. Again, if you're just joining us, talking about the hundreds, if not up to 1,000, estimated a bit for most of the videos I've seen. I mean, it did look like a large crowd, but some of the ones particularly there for actually making it up to the apex of the bridge, the part where the barriers were, I would say was in the order of dozens, if not hundreds. But again, there's a lot of different, I've seen estimates of up to at least 1,000 on there. So, I mean, yeah, you can look at the cameras and some of the video, including from our news partners at KFOX 14 for yourself and make your own determination. I haven't seen an exact count from officials or particularly like CBP, Border Patrol, etc. just yet. But two major things were being mentioned, or at least designated as potential issues with that. Frustration, certainly. That definitely seems to be a major contribution to it. But at least one thing was mentioning or was being brought up, including from video that was taken of those up on the bridge, including them either discussing / shouting with officials, CBP, etc., on the other side of the barbed wire, saying that the CBP One app was not functioning or working. We have some further notes from our news partners at KFOX 14 we'll be getting into a little bit later, but there have been some statements, including from actual, CBP and, spokespersons on this here. Now, Roger Meyer, local or at least regional U.S. Customs and Border Protection spokesperson, spoke with our news partners there at KFOX 14, saying that there are some issues with the app, and including saying, quote, CBP has identified several process improvements and will continue to enhance the CBP One application as additional improvement opportunities arise, but that they are still directing everyone in order to, if they're seeking to make particularly an asylum claim or otherwise, use that app and go through that process. And they have a few very specific things, including the fact that tens of thousands of people recorded logging into the mobile application at 11 a.m. Eastern time daily, which does lead to logjam and delays. But what actually Roger Meyer and the CBP had to say here is, quote, every day, CBP officers at the Paso del Norte International Crossing process a full roster of individuals who have successfully made appointments using the CBP One app. All available appointments are filled daily. Those with appointments receive a confirmation notice and time that should present themselves for orderly entry and processing. Those without appointments should not attempt entry in that they will not be processed, end quote, said Meyer. So again, as in by yesterday evening, the processing, or at the very least the traffic at the bridges, particularly the Paso del Norte and the Bridge of the Americas, and the one in Stanton, were actually, it was up and running again. But so these issues, that was at least some of the frustration that seems to have boiled over for some in the crowd there, though apparently there was one other factor. Specifically, there were some Mexican authorities that were being quoted as saying that this was because of bad information that was being spread, specifically the information going around on some social media that yesterday was quote-unquote Migrants' Day. Now, there is actually a day like that, at least by that name, in December has been noted, but that the further part of this rumor that was going around is that therefore free entry, like unobstructed entry, would be granted to the United States. That, of course, was not true, nor the case, as again, the response demonstrates, but it was enough to, I mean, this is the power of mimetic warfare, I guess you could put it that way, that a simple idea, whether spread in meme format or just by, posting word of mouth, etc., can spread enough and cause serious impacts. That's at least part of what has been pointed to as causing that situation yesterday. Now, more largely, as I've mentioned before, the frustration that we see with this, I mean, sure, border security certainly is important. I've been saying that for a while now, but if we're not addressing other things that come along with it, it's just like, duct taping and maybe even trying to super glue down the lid on a pressure cooker without turning down the heat at all. And that's not a recipe for anything good either. So that's why there's this whole idea of doing immigration reform, making these things, or at the very least, you have to have pressure release valves. Otherwise, the situation is not necessarily going to improve. Now, that can happen in a variety of ways, whether it be immigration reform, whether dealing with root causes, sending communities, etc. So that focus, I still continue to argue, needs to be a part of any overall comprehensive solution, even if comprehensibility when it comes to this has not been the real theme. It's been either kind of one side or the other. And while I still remain hopeful that there's a possibility for such a solution to be at least discussed during this current session of Congress, given the split nature of the chambers, Republicans in the House, Democrats in the Senate, and of course, the White House, of course, still with Biden in it, I'm not going to totally hold my breath at a, again, comprehensive solution. We might see piecemeal, one or the other. Don't know if we'll see anything, particularly from the Republican side of things, that will reach enough threshold, if not playing ball, to like overcome a veto. But yeah, I'm willing to be surprised. Would be very happy to be surprised when it comes to that. But Texas, among other things, is still working on several other things, including out as of last week, actually. So ahead of this, but could be seen as addressing, well, the elements that went into it. Again, the situation at our borders. Article title from the Texas Tribune saying House unveils bills giving state authority to quote unquote repel and return migrants crossing from Mexico. HB 20, House Bill 20, filed by State Rep Matt Schaefer, Republican out of Tyler, Texas. Also further noted by the Texas Tribune as potentially testing the boundaries of the state's ability to enforce immigration law, which courts have historically ruled falls under federal purview. I will further note myself that that has been a recent ruling as well, including the whole sunsetting of the previous Remain in Mexico policy, which could be argued that policy itself is kind of existing still in spirit when it comes to the whole CBP1 app, but that's a separate discussion. Previously, of course, some of the actual state level policies have been primarily focused on, when it comes to enforcement anyway, trespassing. Whether it be, I mean, kind of a legal entry, but that's also a more federal purview thing. But so this actual border security bill, and the reason it has come up is that, among other things, the Texas Speaker of the House, Dade Phelan, has signaled his support and is willing to look at it. And so this one actually moving forward, it would be something in line with also other policies, like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick he will be backing such Senate legislation to make it a state crime for people who cross into Texas illegally. So we're seeing some maybe movement on either side of the chamber that kind of arguably goes towards, or could be state levels towards, enforcement on what the situation was here on Sunday. So those are some of the swirling things, and well, I'm just going to say this now. I don't think this will be the last time we see, even before May. We're still looking at that May 11th date as another one of those potential inflection points when it comes to what response we are seeing at the border, what the pressures are, and what the concepts, or at the very least the conception of what the federal policies are. This one was a minor one, comparatively speaking, where what we saw, like, say, late last year with that potential end of Title 42 and the whole lead up to it, even if that remained in limbo. But now that May date, I mean, we could see the potential still same kind of, are we allowed to cross? Are we not going to? So yeah, there's, that's the next one I'm expecting for this, but writ much larger. I mean, compare what happened on this, focusing on a couple of bridges as opposed to the large amounts of people at multiple different points around the border when it came to the situation we saw, around November, December last year that ended up having the mayor, among others, calling in or asking for the disaster declaration that then called in the state guard, among other things. So yeah, there's a lot going on there, and we'll keep breaking that down. But those are some of the major themes going on right now in our region. Again, current situation, as far as can be told, is that the bridges are open and traffic is moving through at a pace. Though there also has been some national-ish response outside of the local area, but particularly Rep. Henry Cuellar, of course, Democrat rather, representing kind of like the southern, like San Antonio area is kind of where I think of it. He says that this is the type of event that doesn't help them, referring to migrants, and it doesn't help the immigrant make their case. I know that they're tired of waiting and all that, but this type of thing doesn't help their case. Even the president is saying now, quote, let's have them come in an orderly process, end quote. What they're doing, trying to rush through, doesn't help their case one bit. all it does is become a little bit frustrating. This is further noted actually by some other reporting, among other things, on the Texas Standard, with local reports coming out of El Paso earlier today, potential other, considerations coming out of El Paso that, it's noted, and there's willing to take discussion on this, about support in terms of the general population, public, nonprofits, etc., here in our area for immigration and the process, but that things like this, when we see literal shutdowns of the border due to, these types of, again, potential, arguably attempted mass crossings, as therefore causing major impacts for, Sunday is not a unbusy day when it comes to crossings in our community, and anything stymieing that, causing undue pressure or just making it frustrating for people, can lead to people maybe rethinking some of their positions. So there's a lot more going on there than we'll get into a little bit later on, but we're already due for that first break, the next break of this hour right now. Coming out of this break, we're going to talk more about some of the other local situations affecting us, including what we know so far about the fire that has been happening downtown, put out, it appears, as the moment, but the Children's Museum and what that might mean, as well as some other, other state legislation that we have been talking about and that y'all have brought up, particularly New Mexico, with a new gun bill headed toward the governor's desk there. So we'll talk more about that and a whole lot more after this next break. You are, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Phone lines a little bit later, as we do, in any case, and comments going on throughout. We're still popping up some of those, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. A large number of migrants in Mexico who were posing a potential threat to make a mass entry into the United States were prevented from crossing a bridge leading to El Paso this weekend. Migrants and Juarez were heard telling authorities that the CBP One app was not working. Prospective migrants can schedule an appointment to apply to appear at a border entry point to apply for asylum through the app. The Biden administration has said migrants need to follow legal pathways to apply for asylum. The administration portrayed these efforts as a way to protect migrants from the dangerous journey as they travel north to the United States and allow the U.S. border entry points to manage the migrant flow in a safe and efficient manner. Critics have said the app has been beset by technical problems, and it's not clear how many appointments are available every day. And CBP acknowledges issues with the app. Tens of thousands of people are recorded logging into the mobile app at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern time every day, and that contributes to the delay. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Two stall semis are blocking the right lane eastbound on Americas Avenue at North Loop Drive. Exit ramp is blocked due to heavy traffic and congestion in the lower valley on the loop southbound at Pan American. An earlier accident gateway north at Trans Mountain is cleared. All lanes are back open, and that backup has disappeared. It's still stop and go on Global Reach southbound from the Spur to Montana. 15-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like we'll see fairly calm weather for our Tuesday. Then we start to see bigger changes come our way by midweek. After a chilly one tomorrow morning, have your coat and jacket with you. Lows down into the 40s. We'll see highs in the lower to mid 70s for your Tuesday. Then we go windy for our Wednesday and warm with a high around 77. Windy cooler for your Thursday with a 20% chance of a shower, high 71. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Discover. Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right. Everything you earn doubled. The cash back from trips, restaurants, all doubled. Seriously, though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match.
Welcome to the CPAP Games live from the Hayes bedroom. It's another eventful night, Bruce.
It sure is, Ron. Steve has been struggling with his CPAP.
His wife, Michelle, is trying to contain her rage.
Michelle throws an elbow.
She's leaving for the couch.
Steve should get Inspire.
Absolutely, Bruce. Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that gives you comfortable, restful sleep with the click of a remote. There's no mask and no hose. Just sleep.
Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Education doesn't just take place in the classroom. There are many ways children of all ages can learn about sustainability and the environment at home. Visit iHeartRadio.com/Earth for a list of resources, activity guides, and toolkits that are educational and fun for the whole family. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
He's been called the most important American composer of the 20th century, and his career started out in segregated clubs. We'll have the story of Duke Ellington. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We do pay attention to the Twitter. I mean, we can't pop that one up as much because it just kind of doesn't work that way. It's more of a, reply, response, DM kind of thing. But if you still want to get your 2 cents in through those, again, various other pages, that's the reason we mention all of those, or to make it the most easiest way for y'all to get on if you want to. Have that phone line open a little bit later as well. Don't you worry. Towards the end of this segment, as we usually do. So, a couple of things going on in town, even beyond the immediate response and aftermath to the crossing here. Of course, the going on this afternoon fire at the still under construction La Nube Children's Science Museum. And concerns abound there, including John Browson saying there goes $30 million of wasted bond issue. I don't know if it was actually that much of it. I'll need to double check the numbers, but okay, from everything I can see so far, there was thick black smoke coming out from the roof, at the very least. Some of the fire actually spreading that far and going to the roof, but most of the facade, at the very least the part that, the cameras from our news partners at KFOX 14 could see, seems to be intact, and it was knocked down by about 2:45, but the investigation is going to be going on for a while probably, so I would avoid that whole intersection, probably most of Santa Fe, to be honest with you, in that area near the ballpark, etc., for the time being, because probably going to be a little bit of a mess. Among other things, in interfering with that, apparently, is the unique construction of the roof. It did have that trying to look, La Nube, trying to look like a cloud as part of the roof, making that an interesting challenge. Apparently, they were using a drone to further look at and investigate the damage, but also it was a little bit hard to position some of the aerial cranes for the water to be able to get close enough to it, because among other things, the trolley aerial lines. So that probably didn't help a bit, but it does look, for the moment, haven't seen any interior pictures just yet, but it hasn't collapsed or anything like that. But we'll see what ends up coming out of this. 2 circumstances come to mind here. Other major-ish, I guess you could say in this order of magnitude, if not anywhere near the same type of facility, that have caught fire while under construction, not too far from us here along Mesa. There was previously the Urban Air, iFly, sorry. Different place, not trying to throw shade. The iFly that you can see from the highway, I-10, when you're driving past the whole Montecillo South, kind of a little bit downhill slightly. Still same major area as, say, Topgolf over there. That caught fire while it was under construction, and there was questions about what would happen with that, but did end up opening, so it's not unknown that there would be a fire, but then completion. But again, we have to find out more about this situation. But then also the fires that have been happening downtown. There's even one other fire that happened in a building that did burn all the way down, a not new one, a historic one that burned down completely, still under investigation there. And of course, there's been a noted number of them. No immediate implication of their being involved with any of those other ones, just when you start, pattern recognition is a human trait, and the idea that there's been more than a couple of these, even in the downtown area, over the period of, let's call it the last year. That's pretty safe. I remember when the DeSoto Hotel went up exactly, but still kind of makes you think is there possibly a series again, no immediate implication that I'm aware of when it comes to this, but comes to mind for me anyway. So at least one other thing that y'all have brought up previously, and definitely of interest in our area, is the fact that there actually has been now some movement in one of the gun safety bills that has been brought up by, well, y'all, among other things. In fact, technically one that I don't think we've discussed directly, specifically in New Mexico's legislature, which is also having its ongoing legislative session. It doesn't happen only once every 2 years, but that's by the by. So House Bill 9, as noted by our news partners at KFOX 14, the Benny Hargrove Gun Safety Act, has been passed and is now headed to the governor's desk, expected to be signed into law in New Mexico on Tuesday, as described here by the article titled, Gun Safety Bill Heads to New Mexico Governor's Desk, which you can see out as of today. House Bill 9 holds adults accountable for making a firearm accessible to a minor if the minor brandishes the weapon, noted as a misdemeanor, or for negligently making a firearm accessible to a minor if the minor uses the weapon and it results in great bodily harm or death, noted as a fourth-degree felony. So expected to be in a signing ceremony tomorrow at 1 p.m. So that's one of, maybe not exactly one of the ones that we've discussed previously on this program. Previously, we've mentioned such as New Mexico House Bills 50, 72, 100, and 101, but this was House Bill 9, again, known as Benny's Bill. Named after an Albuquerque middle school student who was shot in 2021 by a classmate who used his father's improperly stored gun. So a lot of focus on the storage of firearms coming out of that, though this is not the only one, certainly, that we have discussed. Some of the other ones involving capacity restrictions, some of them kind of on storage, but also on the functions of firearms. But this one primarily focused on penalties for lack of safe storage, or more specifically for accessibility to minors who then go on to commit crimes, with them also holding adults accountable. So that's at least one of the things going on in New Mexico right now. And we still got a lot of developing situations going on in and around our area, as is noted by the Migrant Crisis Dashboard over on the City of El Paso website. That is, we've still been seeing lower numbers, but we hit one of the highs in the last, since basically the start of this year, it does look like. And when it comes to actual crossings into our area, with noted as total migrant releases for the last complete week of being approximately the week 9, that is, for about 1,400, give or take, and seeing somewhat of a dip in the rolling 7-day custody average in our area. But these questions and the issues that come along with, again, what we saw on Sunday, as well as, other laws that are percolating through, again, mentioning here on the Texas side of things, House Bill 20, that would allow more authority to, quote-unquote, repel and return migrants crossing from Mexico. This, of course, puts a lot of focus on the administration's efforts, including the focus on the CBP One app, looking at potentially doing more on any criminal entry involving coming into the United States, being disqualifications for asylum or other types of status being sought. And there hasn't been all necessarily of the response so far to the whole Sunday situation. We mentioned some of it, and there's been a lot more. I do know that among other things, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar for El Paso did note that she was in contact with CBP, among other things, and was keeping apprised of the situation. But we'll go ahead and see if there's any more that can actually be coming out of it. Have been I'll just quote directly from the tweets from Veronica Escobar over the weekend, or earlier today, really. As the reports of chaotic events at our ports unfolded, I have remained in contact with local CBP leadership. Those of us who live and work on the border understand how broken our immigration system is. Going on to another tweet to say, it is illogical to deal with immigration only at the border, as my Republican colleagues want to continue to do. I have and will continue to push for long overdue legislative reforms. So that's some of the response so far, and we'll see what exactly ends up coming out of this, still kind of percolating through today. So with that note, let's go ahead and take that next break right now, and let's go ahead and open up those phone lines as we do at this point during the program. So if you wanted to chime in, add your 2 cents, etc. Yes, there's a lot of other big topics swirling around today, including what's going on with banking, the measures being taken, what the FDIC is doing. A little bit more national. We've trusted our national hosts to deal with that, but there's a lot more to discuss in our area. So again, if you want to get on that line, add your 2 cents that way. We got more comments that we'll get to as well. But if you want to dial that number, it is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Two stalled semis are blocking the right lane eastbound on Americas Avenue at North Loop Drive. Exit ramp is blocked due to heavy traffic and congestion in the lower valley on the loop southbound at Pan American. An earlier accident gateway north of Trans Mountain is cleared. All lanes are back open and that backup has disappeared. It's still stop and go on Global Reach southbound from the Spur to Montana. 15-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's. 2 for $6. The best deal in fast food. When you want the best deal on the best meal, choose Wendy's 2 for $6. Pick from Dave's Single, Spicy Chicken Sandwich, 10-piece Crispy Nugs, or a medium strawberry lemonade. Pair any two for just $6. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's. 2 for $6.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Josh, quote, "After walking around my whole life being a mouth breather, I was excited to try Navage. I read the directions carefully, pressed the button, and oh my gosh, what a sensation. So much mucus, so much crud, but oh sweet, merciful air, I can finally breathe you through my nose. Never have I ever taken such an amazing breath in my life. This is a life changer," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Our goal is to make March an all-time record month in sales, so we'll do whatever it takes to make a deal. Don't wait. Visit us today for huge savings.
Save big on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your car, truck, or SUV, we want it, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Right now, get $3,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500s, plus super low 4.9% APR for 72 months. Get $4,000 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport, or $4,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L models. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Trade and upgrade for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive, or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 4.9% APR is $1,606 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
What is it like to be a corporate executive with today's woke mob trying to hold you hostage? We'll talk to Jennifer Say, who lost her job for speaking out against school closures during COVID. Listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Good Feet Store, improving people's lives 2 feet at a time.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. A lot of ways to interact with the show, whether it's commenting on those there, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, or over on the phone lines, open now and available, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. A lot of commentary coming in already, including Eric Bashal saying, yes, parents should be held accountable for improperly storing firearms, especially if it results in a death or casualty. Interesting way to phrase it there with casualty, but some more of the context with that one, as this wasn't one I was totally familiar with. Some of the questions about, okay, what does it mean to have made it accessible? Some of the things there about does not violate the parts of it about making it available is that it was kept in a locked container and either securely stored or kept in a location that a reasonable person would believe to be secured. when obtained by a minor, was carried on the person within close proximity of the person, was locked with a firearm safety device that rendered the firearm inoperable, as in the course of self-defense or defense of another person, or by illegal entry to the person's property. Of course, probably very important mitigating circumstances. But also, here's an interesting one to say that evidence that a person attained a firearm safety training course prior to an alleged or proven violation of this section shall be considered a mitigating factor in any action, proceeding, trial, or sentencing commenced pursuant to this section. I definitely appreciate the calls for training, among other things, though. To put it, I don't often see it put it this way in a lot of laws I see. We also have Grokumanda chiming in there saying hello, everyone. So let's go ahead and dive into those phone calls right now. Again, if you call them towards the beginning or middle of a segment, you might be on hold there for a minute, and we might pop you up live as circumstances are. So just kind of stay Johnny on the spot there with it. But let's go ahead and dive into it right now. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, I'll be brief, and thank you, Andrew. Just wanted to comment on this attempted invasion by these migrants from Mexico.
Yes, and so there's been a lot more response going on to this today, including some noted who were kind of caught in the, not exactly caught in the crossfire, there was no crossfire, but were caught up in the situation, unable to cross, and also further noting as of today that don't try to do this if you're not going through the app because you will be turned around. That's some of the messaging coming out today.
Yes, well, for one, this is a result of Biden's open border policy and the invitation that he's given to these people. And number two is the no action taken by the Mexican government to keep these people out.
I will say, okay, I get what you're coming at there, particularly on the, I mean, whether you think about the messaging from the administration is one thing. I still do have to give credit to our locally based CBP, Border Patrol, and related agencies, because the reason there wasn't any crossing that ended up happening was because of their preparation and quick efforts. And again, a lot of that is also being credited to the communication coming from the Mexican side of things saying, hey, we've got this gathering happening. We're not sure what's going to happen, but y'all should probably be aware kind of situation. And it was further reported that even so, Mexican officials, there definitely was at least one video I saw. I'm missing it at the moment here, but there was like a Mexican bridge or crossing official that was there kind of at the base trying to rein things in on their side. Now, arguably not that effective in that case, considering that the large assemblage of people just kind of, walked right past, blew right past the mostly like, the like swinging barricades, the little swing arms that were there at the base of it. So, I mean, if you want to argue about results, sure, there was not a whole lot of it on the Mexican side of things, but I do appreciate the at least attempted communication that then let the U.S. side set up its response.
Yeah, well, apparently they try to mitigate the circumstances after the horses have left the barn. But the thing is that they allow unfettered access to their country through their southern border, and that brings you to the next thing that's really chapped my hide is López Obrador's threat to his propaganda war, saying that he's going to encourage Mexicans over here voting to vote against Republicans. Well, I mean, I don't hear people crying election interference, and how's he going to do it? And number two, I think that's trying to subvert another country's elections is really not good diplomatic relations.
Okay, don't get me wrong. I don't have a whole lot of love lost between me and the whole AMLO administration we're talking about there, particularly since what it was late last week, we were talking about the fact that he's kind of hit on this line of, well, fentanyl isn't really our problem. That sounds, me paraphrasing here, that sounds like a you problem, not a me problem, the way he's describing it, which I have a lot of issues with, particularly since it's not even that we're not doing it. It's we're just trafficking it. We're not making it. So why should we worry about it? Because the whole idea of there being large international criminal organizations causing serious injury to people to your neighbor to the north is just shouldn't be your concern at all, right?
Right. I know what he's saying. I know what he's saying. But the guy's a moron. He's a left-wing Marxist, and that's all I got to say on that. But for this guy to try to subvert our elections, I mean, who are the Democrats decrying election interference? They sure made a hell of a lot of noise when supposedly Russia was interfering with the elections. But anyhow, I'll turn the mic back over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point of the call. Do appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I mean, again, not a huge AMLO fan. I guess I've at best been like bemused by him over time, but his kind of hard turn to a we ain't playing any games. Even when it comes to, okay, let's just say if I was ending up being the president of any Central, South American, or even just a high-level politician, etc., kind of country that was having serious issues with major international criminal organizations that effectively are de facto governments in some parts of my country, I would absolutely want to look at, hey, what can we do to put the pin on these guys? Now, sure, if you're not totally interested in interference, further like unilateral action, as again has been kind of even mentioned when it comes to some of these transnational, border efforts dealing with the actual cartels and their fact of it. Let's just say that, there are other questions that come up there, well, including interference, but I would be very happy to find just about anything of trying to put the kibosh on these guys. I mean, there are a few other arguments to be made in the meantime that it's conflict with the cartels, that you see some of the worst things. I mean, there was tech during my some of my seminal years growing up when it was that we saw a whole lot of violence going on in Juarez. Like, it was that part of my generation didn't really have the whole, oh yeah, let's go over and party in Juarez kind of thing, because it was not a good idea. It's arguably never a great idea, I gotta say, particularly the whole underage drinking thing, but particularly then it was just let's just not even consider that given the violence going on. The argument at that point in time was that there was a conflict between cartels for the control here. So, I mean, sure, not exactly the federal, but it still raises questions of, okay, how do we go about enforcement and control, etc.? But you'd think that starting somewhere, trying to cleaning up corruption is rarely a bad thing in my mind. Sure, if it's cover up for other things and trying to be like, oh, look over here, we're totally cleaning up corruption. Yeah, there's ways it can be done that I am less in support of. But in general, if you're actually wanting to follow through with it, would be a good thing. So, yeah, let's just say I'm not that I exactly had up AMLO fan posters or anything like that, or was fan camming him, but I would definitely not be doing that anymore, even if that was the case. Anyway, we got to take that next break right now, so I didn't want to shortchange anyone by just trying to squeeze them on at the end of this. So if you want to get on the line, don't forget that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. If you're on the line, stay there. If you want to call in, that is the number. We're back after this break and the top of the hour news here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On and off slowing on the 54 south from Stan Roberts down to Trans Mountain. It's an 11-minute delay. Westbound on Montana Avenue from Zaragoza to Joe Battle. That is the 7-minute delay. It's mostly bumper to bumper. A disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder on Trans Mountain after the Summit Pass near Wrestler Drive. And it's stop and go in Global Reach. 17-minute delays from the Spur down to Montana Avenue. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Let's face it. Credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car? Here's my card.
I order takeout. Here's my card.
And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online and you could get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR. But with Lightstream, you can get a fixed rate as low as 7.99% APR with autopay and excellent credit.
Now I can pay off my high-interest credit cards and save money with a much lower rate.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval. Rates range from 7.99% APR to 23.99% APR and includes 0.5% autopay discount. Lowest rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio. 690 KTSM. KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station. News on the hour and the hat. traffic, and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is out of the hospital. His office announced that the Kentucky Republican was discharged Monday after being treated for a concussion and a minor rib fracture. McConnell was hospitalized last week after a trip and fall during a private dinner at a Washington, D.C. hotel. A powerful nor'easter is set to hit the East Coast. Forecasters say the next 18 to 36 hours will bring snow, heavy rain, strong winds, power outages, and coastal flooding. Over 20 million people are under winter alerts in advance of the storm. The New York City area will begin seeing the storm's effects later this evening. Financial experts are telling U.S. consumers not to panic after two bank failures. Chief investment strategist Michael Cerrillo at Ashton Thomas Private Wealth says the latest bank failures are a far cry from the 2008 financial crisis.
Things were not rated properly. They were banks. Balance sheets were not in the position they are right now. Banks today are in much stronger positions than they were 10, 12, 13 years ago.
California's Silicon Valley Bank failed on Friday, followed by the closure of New York-based Signature Bank on Sunday. President Biden is also reassuring the nation the banking system is safe. The president of Mexico says his country is safer than the U.S. Lisa Taylor explains.
Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador made the comment as there's been criticism of security in Mexico following the kidnapping and killing of Americans this month. He claimed there's no problem with traveling safely around Mexico, despite State Department advisories in place warning Americans not to travel to certain parts of the country. 4 Americans were kidnapped shortly after crossing the border into Mexico. 2 were killed, and 2 others have since made their return to the U.S.
At the closing bell, the Dow lost 90 points to 31,819. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Winters in the U.S. appear to be getting warmer. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration reports the average temperature for the U.S. this winter was 34.9 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 2.7 degrees above average. Meanwhile, this winter saw 0.9 inches of rain above average, making it the third wettest winter on record. A new ethnic studies course will be taught in one California school district after some changes were made by the school board.
Last week, Carlsbad Unified approved what will be the district's first ethnic studies class, where students will analyze how African Americans, Hispanics, and Asian Americans have been portrayed in film. The San Diego Union Tribune reports the class was approved after the board removed references to white Eurocentric dominant culture and institutional racism in the course description, which parents had protested at the previous board meeting. I'm Eddie McCoven.
New Yorkers are reacting to the big changes coming to Broadway in Manhattan. Scott Pringle has the details.
Well, crews are now installing a two-way bike lane on Broadway from West 25th Street to West 32nd Street. There's also 2 pedestrian plazas being formed on Broadway. What's called the Broadway Vision Plan by the Adams administration is aimed at creating safer streets and more public spaces and more shared space between vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists. These drivers are not thrilled.
There's already a lot of traffic over here, and people are having trouble parking.
Of these bike lanes and these islands that they keep putting up, they're creating a problem.
The Broadway changes will also include shortening crossings, wider crosswalks, and more outdoor dining.
St. Patrick's Day celebrations began early in Chicago. After the Chicago River was dyed green, the 68th rendition of the St. Patrick's Day Parade began making its way through the city streets on Saturday. The festivities included bagpipers, Irish step dancers, marching bands, and the St. Patrick's Day Parade Queen riding in a horse-drawn carriage. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's. 2 for $6. The best deal in fast food. When you want the best deal on the best meal, choose Wendy's 2 for $6. Pick from Dave's Single, Spicy Chicken Sandwich, 10-piece Crispy Nugs, or a medium strawberry lemonade. Pair any 2 for just $6. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6.
Welcome to the CPAP Games live from the Hayes bedroom. It's another eventful night, Bruce.
It sure is, Ron. Steve has been struggling with his CPAP.
His wife, Michelle, is trying to contain her rage.
Michelle throws an elbow.
She's leaving for the couch.
Steve should get Inspire.
Absolutely, Bruce. Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that gives you comfortable, restful sleep with the click of a remote. There's no mask and no hose. Just sleep.
Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
Inspire is not for everyone.
down, talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you, and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's the Woody Show.
Hello.
Rod Ryan Show, check it in.
All of the once-in-a-lifetime events.
Alter Ego, are you ready?
All of the best free curated playlists.
My favorite music.
A little bit of everything. All of the great podcasts for every interest.
Stuff they don't want you to know.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome.
All of your favorite superstars.
This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
And best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now. Titans, go!
When the Teen Titans go to the movies, they know the best way to travel is safely.
Hollywood, here we come!
Budget! And you know it's super.
To keep your child safe, be sure to use the right car seat for their age and size.
Exactly. I know you're feeling.
We're finally on the big screen.
Have a seat, my dude.
For more information on finding the right seat, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Gotcha. That's a wise move.
It's an upbeat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod. Noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in. However you may be doing so, being on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of different conversations going on there. But of course, if you also want to get on the line, add your 2 cents that way. Do that phone line open now. That number to call is 915-544-587-6-544-KTSM. Got some calls on the line that we'll get to here in a second. But of course, those comments, including us in Redfern, chiming in, hey, y'all, you as well. And Rashad DeMille with his standard Napoleonic stance saying, cleaning corruption isn't bad. Great, bold stance. Thank you. I wasn't sure if anyone would agree with me on that, but I mean, seriously, if you take it in context of us talking about the fact that that part of it and dealing with the cartels has been something that apparently AMLO has not been that willing to do. Yeah, it's apparently a bold stance indeed. So taken in context is all I'm saying. It also was reminded there, I'd almost forgotten the fact that of that little gem coming out a little bit earlier today from the Monday morning press briefing from Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, affectionately-ish known as AMLO, of course, saying that the Mexico is a safer country than the U.S., which, that's a bold statement. Let's a bold stance. Let's put it that way. And of course, this does come as there has been some, advertisements basically showing U.S. streets versus Mexican streets in some ways. And just to put it there, and this information actually coming from that great, right-wing, chatterbox CNN, pointing out that, Mexico has approximately intentional homicides per 100,000 people up at, as of last year, 28, down from that nice high of 29 in recent years. So, yeah, totally putting it in such a rarefied territory as like South Africa at, so that one's at 33, and actually above Brazil even, which is at, the numbers here, at least for the last full year, 22. So, yeah, just totally working out for you, just the best that it absolutely could. And, I mean, among other things in the United States for last full year 2020 with a number of 7. Of course, there are population differences, bigger sizes there. But, particularly when compared to, let's just say the lived experience that has been in the place in Ciudad Juarez previously, and that's not even counting necessarily, the desaparecidos, the other corruption bits going on, and the fact that there are, as further noted by CNN, 100,000 people in the country remain missing. Yeah, that's a hell of a line there, my dude, AMLO, being like, just doing the total no you kind of argument when it comes to, hey, there are problems and it's affecting us, being like, yeah, well, you suck anyway. Okay, that's a useful standpoint. I've used that term loose cannon applying to him frequently because it's the best way you can come up with. But I guess it's another thing when the cannon's just kind of rolling around as opposed to rolling directly towards you, which is a bad thing in the whole nautical analogy involving here. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call if you want to get on the line, filled up right now, but the number is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Yesterday, Luis the Cut Destroyer Reese said that I'm a member of a cult. Now, yet he was the one who said that he was at the January 6th protest. And that then he went into exile from El Paso for 7 months after being there.
Oh,
hey,
you're talking
Luis,
about Friday.
Cut Destroyer Reese. Only the looniest of the lemmings in Trump's cult showed up to that protest on January 6th. And the stupidest of them are the ones who attacked the Capitol and the Capitol Police. So now I'd like to know why Loco Luis went into exile from El Paso for 7 months after having been at the 1-6 protest. Sounds a little crazy to me. And Luis the Cut Destroyer claims that this Malt and Mattis guys were anti-Trump union members who infiltrated Trump's mob who attacked the Capitol. Now, that's pretty crazy. Why would people who oppose Trump show up to this protest and then attack the Capitol? That doesn't make any sense. That's that narrative that the right wants to put across, that it was Antifa and BLM, and that they were all disguised, and they were just trying to make, I guess, Trump look bad. Now, these two guys, this Malt guy and this Mattis guy, they pleaded guilty to assaulting and resisting and impeding federal officers. And while they were being sentenced, and they were sentenced between 37 and 46 months, they were crying. They were crying. And they were saying that it was Trump told us because of the election fraud. That's why they were there. Now, according to prosecutors, by their own admission, each of these guys was an active participant in the mob that interrupted the certification of the 2020 Electoral College vote and injured more than 100 law enforcement officers. They didn't injure 100, but overall 140 of them were injured. 1,000 charges of assault.
I'm aware of what you're talking about here, and I do believe you're talking about what the conversation was on Friday, not yesterday, just to clarify there. And yeah, those individuals we ended up talking about that you're referencing there, I do believe were specifically charged with trying to, or actually pepper spraying some in the crowd there. So, and I do believe you're using the word C-U-C-K, right? Is that correct when you're referring to the individual that we're talking about from the previous call?
Yeah, cult. He said I was a member of a cult.
Cult, and
he was a guy who went
okay.
Now, and by the way, during that sentencing, the judge called the conversations that these two guys were having following the attack, that their beliefs and their actions, they were saying they were patriotic. The judge says that was delusional. Now, I called Loco Luis's call. It sounded delusional to me, and especially in light of what Trump's former VP and sycophant Putz just recently said, which that tourists don't attack and injure officers. So again, they're trying to paint this out to be something that it wasn't. We saw it. I saw it. The world saw it. And now Trump is blaming Pence, if you can believe this. The Republican Party has totally devolved into a party that's moving towards authoritarianism, which uses three tactics to get what they want. Number one is lying. The lyingest president we've ever seen, 30,000 lies. And now Tucker Carlson and Fox News lies. The second, corruption. You can't find a more corrupt guy than Trump. He's corrupt as they come, and he ripped up our city for $500,000. And last but not least, violence. They'll use violence to get what they want. That's where the Republican Party has devolved to under Trump. I call it the Trump-Putin Party now.
I mean, we have a lot of conversations that have been going on. I mean, we do have, what was it, a little bit last month or earlier this month, I forget which one, there was the summit-ish kind of thing with a lot of potential frontrunners and or seeking positions within a future political, Republican political administration coming up there. But also notably, some of the other frontrunners. I mean, DeSantis has also been mentioned as one of the frontrunners in that whole race here. So I'll say that regardless of who is in it, it's up to the individual members of any party to hold their leadership accountable, because just saying that, well, it's the best. I mean, the whole lesser of two evils kind of mentality that unfortunately dominates in this country way too much, and why I think we get ourselves into situations like this, whole two-party system overall, another conversation, certainly. But that's if you want to see it or see a different outcome when it comes to these things, it's being involved is incredibly important with it, and not just saying, like, well, we'll see who we end up with. I mean, sure, it can feel daunting for a lot of individuals to just say, well, it's a huge national process. How can we truly end up influencing it? And yet that's the only way it ends up working is individuals in mass making that decision to do so. So that's so much to say is that anyone that supports those ideas, I am not going to be in support of the whole idea of violence or those kind of things, because that's not a political process at that point here. So if anyone thinks that those are bad things and doesn't want to see them involved in our process, they should absolutely be involved, among other things here. So appreciate the point in the call. We got to take that next break right now, but coming out of this break, we'll talk further about the issues that definitely affect us here in the Borderland. There was some response to previous calls that, and I certainly understand it, but we are going to take more calls and get on more on the line here. So again, if you want to get on there, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Finding off slowing on the 54 south from Stan Roberts down to Trans Mountain. It's an 11-minute delay. Westbound on Montana Avenue from Zaragoza to Joe Battle. That is a 7-minute delay. It's mostly bumper to bumper. A disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder on Trans Mountain after the Summit Pass near Wrestler Drive. And it's stop and go in Global Reach. 17-minute delays from the spur down to Montana Avenue. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Are you a domestic terrorist because you want to know what happened on January the 6th? Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast, Tucker Carlson and others are being accused of being exactly that, just for showing you the tape. I'm going to expose who's behind this plan to attack all of us. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Our goal is to make March an all-time record month in sales, so we'll do whatever it takes to make a deal. Don't wait. Visit us today for huge savings.
Save big on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your car, truck, or SUV? We want it, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Right now, get $3,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500s, plus super low 4.9% APR for 72 months. Get $4,000 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport, or $4,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L models. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push through your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Trade and upgrade for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive, or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 4.9% APR is $1,606 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Mama, what does the chicken say? Dog. Cat. Giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit NHTSA.gov/the
right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Of course, those are some of the good ways you can see us, get at us, and get at us here in a lot of different ways, and add your 2 cents, among other things, including Robert Gable over on the YouTube saying, previous caller, not really paying attention to the things / lies coming out of the mouth of the resident of the White House, is he? I'm going to be honest with you. I tend to prefer those that are like actually impacting politics and the decisions that are made there. But I mean, there's a amount of fair discussion that can be had about very avowed candidates, and that will probably be an increasing one. I expect more and more towards the, it's not even hard to say anymore because the campaign never really ends these days, but 2024 primaries, certainly that will be an absolute part of it. But in any case, and a lot more commentary on that and the perspectives there. Yeah, there's a whole lot more to get into, and a lot of people bringing up topics there. You can see it for yourself. The Thunderdome comments over on the Facebook is more or less where it comes into. But again, if you want to add your 2 cents by calling in, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I was calling actually to respond to, I listened to last Friday's, I think, show where Raul was calling out Barbara, and I think that's me. And I was thinking it would be fantastic if Raul could focus on the things that matter and, just put his hate aside that's clouded all his judgment and focus on the things that make a difference, that he could maybe persuade people to think differently. But the idea to attack people and to attack me personally, which is fine, isn't going to work because it just makes me more, not stubborn, but more inclined to call in. And I hate to use the word defend myself, but I put facts out there and he's never called and said I was wrong. So he's just stuck on stupid with President Trump with personal attacks that didn't affect any of us in the United States of America. We had a thriving economy, people working, low inflation, job creation. I mean, you can go on and on and on with how we all benefited. Democrats and Republicans, Raul, benefited from the Trump administration. And you're focused on his personal life, which doesn't affect you in the least, or me, or anybody that I know. But what I was going to say is, what if he focused on this horrendous climate agenda that the city is proposing?
Mm-hmm.
Does he know that the gentleman who helped with the proposal actually said that the charter was aiming to set aspirational goals? Raul, are you ready to use your tax dollars to the tune of billions of dollars to buy an electric company that it's not? Like he said, it's a monumental lift. So I'm asking everybody listening to your show, Andrew, are you ready to spend billions of dollars on a monumental lift?
Mm-hmm.
This guy goes around and he makes these proposals, and I'll bet you he skips to the next town to drop another aspirational goals agenda and leave the people there high and dry. And the city says, well, there won't be any city jobs left. Well, Andrew, have you read the study from the Chamber of Commerce?
I haven't seen the full version. I've read kind of essentially the executive side of it, those high level ones here. So we're hoping to talk more with them about that. But I mean, some of their predictions that come out of this would be, I think like 150,000 jobs lost, and therefore billions in lost wages is some of the estimates they have put forth on that.
But specifically, they estimated the city alone would lose 2,000 jobs when the city is saying, oh, well, we're just going to transition a few of our workers, but we're not going to lay anybody off and nobody's going to lose any jobs. Well, that's not what the study says. And it also says it's impossible to set up all the departments that they're saying without a tremendous amount of tax dollar money. So this isn't just $1 billion on an electrical company. It's going to be on setting them up, on qualified personnel, on reports that they have to submit when any project is coming up for the city on how it will move the climate agenda. All those existing contracts with small companies or whoever the companies may be are subject to being banned because they're not consistent with the climate agenda. So there's a lot of damage coming out through this climate agenda project to everybody in El Paso. Raul, spend your time on that. That's worth listening to, not the ranting about President Trump. And how about our borders? 3 of our bridges were affected yesterday. These guys want to come in by force. They don't care what our laws are. They're not here to respect our laws, Raul. Focus on that. The largest shelter in Juarez, like I stated a couple of weeks ago, had to close down because of the chicken pox outbreak. That's what these people are doing. They have nowhere to stay in Juarez, and now they're overwhelming our bridges. This is just crazy. And the city's preparing for May, and look what happened. I'm sure they weren't prepared for this, but they better be prepared for more because this isn't going to stop. These people have no respect for the law, and they're going to come in no matter what. And then, how about focusing on sexually explicit books in our schools? And there are. Try getting a copy of them. Prepare the FOIA request or the open records request. These aren't easy things to do. And then what about Ukraine? Did you hear about the government official crossing the border with $22 million in a briefcase? $22 million of our dollars crossing the borders in Ukraine. And then another government official driving a BMW and saying that it was donated for the war for him to drive in. Raul, these are important things that affect your tax dollar and my tax dollar. And I'm sure everybody's heard of Bernie Marcus, right? Well, he founded an organization called Job Creators Network. They took a poll, Raul. 60% of the small businesses that responded to the poll said they did not believe that they would survive this year under the Biden administration. Small businesses employ 70% of the workers, and most small businesses are corporations. So they're going to be affected by these tax increases that Biden says aren't going to affect anybody. And what about inflation? Oh, it's going the wrong way. It doesn't seem to be coming down. I mean, these are the things that researching make a difference. And you know, people will listen to you, not the ranting and raving that you do. Oh, and Raul, did you hear about the binding contract that the Biden administration is going to sign with the World Health Organization? For the next pandemic, the World Health Organization is going to tell each country how to do it globally. So if one country falls, we all fall. That's ridiculous. We shouldn't be signing a contract with the World Health Organization. Remember the group of scientists that they sent to Wuhan to see if the COVID came from a virus that escaped at the lab? Well, China had control of who went in there to inspect the lab. These are things that affect people directly and our kids and our grandkids. Oh, and how about Fauci and Collins? They have admitted that they've received $345 million in royalties from the pharmas. These are people who have worked on the COVID, on the vaccines. Fauci and Collins, they all got royalties, but they named the people who got them, but they're refusing to say how much they received of these royalties. I mean, these are our tax dollars. This is what people need to hear so that we don't go to the ballot box in November and vote for policies that are breaking people's homes, that are putting people in bankruptcy, that small businesses are going to be closing. We have open borders. Oh, and New York wants to send their illegal immigrants to college. They may not even have sixth grade education, but they want to spend billions of dollars to send people crossing into the United States who hardly speak English to college.
We're getting a little far afield here for a Monday show here. And I mean, none of the things you brought up are particularly unimportant, but on the aspects, the first ones you brought up here, I mean, let me just say in part, I don't trust the Chinese Communist government as far as I could throw it. Yes, all of them, which wouldn't be very far at all. And as much as I definitely support Ukraine's right to sovereignty and to not be invaded and fighting back against an invasion, it was a very noted corrupt country even before this point, and the milieu and the fog of war, so to speak, et cetera, can often make things worse. But particularly on the local things, there's been some more that's come out specifically on particularly the Chambers analysis on at least more reporting like from the El Paso Times out, I want to say late last week, on the whole point of it here, but still hoping to see a little bit more specifics and more in detail on it, among other things. But then also, I mean, just talking about the local things, kind of your main point there is like you're doing the whole case in point with the things you're bringing up. Talking about the things that affect us here is absolutely our major reason to get into this, to make sure we have an understanding of them. And one of the best ways I find to do that is by discussing them. Because if it ends up being, pontificating, just putting out one-sided information and not allowing anyone to, ask the questions, okay, but what does this mean for us? I think that is absolutely important. And yeah, we got that besides May as a deadline for the city. And this item will be on the May agenda, the May ballot, actually, along with still looking and gathering information. There's going to be a bunch of school boards on this May election as well. So this one should be a significant one, but given that it's one of these off year and off time frame ones. So, I mean, yeah, remembering November, don't get me wrong. I definitely appreciate that. But focusing on May is something we're going to continue to do. May has a lot of stuff going on to it, and that's what we'll absolutely continue to do here on this program and this part. So do appreciate the point in the call, and you bringing up these issues. We'll definitely discuss them more, particularly as we get to like Friday and things there. So do appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew. Have a great evening.
You as well there. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. And again, if you're wanting to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. A large number of migrants in Mexico who were posing a potential threat to make a mass entry into the United States were prevented from crossing a bridge leading to El Paso this weekend. Migrants and Juarez were heard telling authorities that the CBP One app was not working. Prospective migrants can schedule an appointment to apply to appear at a border entry point to apply for asylum through the app. The Biden administration has said migrants need to follow legal pathways to apply for asylum. The administration portrayed these efforts as a way to protect migrants from the dangerous journey as they travel north to the United States and allow the U.S. border entry points to manage the migrant flow in a safe and efficient manner. Critics have said the app has been beset by technical problems, and it's not clear how many appointments are available every day. And CBP acknowledges issues with the app. Tens of thousands of people are recorded logging into the mobile app at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern time every day, and that contributes to the delay. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
A crash on eastbound Trans Mountain before the 54 gateway at mile marker 19 is blocking the right lane and the right shoulder and causing some slowing. I-10 eastbound at Dallas, watch for a work truck and the cones are out. Right shoulder is blocked. 54 southbound Stan Roberts down to Trans Mountain, 15-minute delays. And slow traffic eastbound Montana, Yarborough out to Zaragoza is a 9-minute delay. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like we'll see fairly calm weather for our Tuesday. Then we start to see bigger changes come our way by midweek. After a chilly one tomorrow morning, have your coat and jacket with you. Lows down into the 40s. We'll see highs in the lower to mid 70s for your Tuesday. Then we go windy for our Wednesday and warm with a high around 77. Windy cooler for your Thursday with a 20% chance of a shower, high 71. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Are you a domestic terrorist because you want to know what happened on January the 6th? Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast, Tucker Carlson and others are being accused of being exactly that, just for showing you the tape. I'm going to expose who's behind this plan to attack all of us. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Planning a spring getaway? This month, get 40% off Rosetta Stone's lifetime unlimited subscription and explore the world with bite-sized lessons in 25 languages, from Spanish and German to French and Korean, and even Portuguese and Turkish. Rosetta Stone prepares you for real-life conversations and will have you talking from your very first lesson. So visit rosettastone.com today for 40% off and get ready for the trip of a lifetime. Offer ends March 22nd. Rosetta Stone, how language is learned.
Struggling with CPAP? Now there's Inspire, the only FDA-approved obstructive sleep apnea treatment that works inside the body to treat the root cause of sleep apnea with just the click of a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Visit inspiresleep.com to learn more.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big. Now get $15 off signs, banners, and posters when you spend $75 or more. Offer ends 4/15. Visit staples.com/printbig for details. This is your sign to try Staples, where prints are perfect, guaranteed. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. All the comments coming in there, and including Angel Villagran, Stephen Christopher, those dropping those likes and react, including Ion Grimm as well, Carlos Marquez, James Radcliffe, Fluckway Metis, James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Angel Rueda, and why does it do that sometimes? It doesn't show me all of them, but we also have Robbie Flores and Monica Cervantes, I didn't say that already, as well as Austin Redfern. Do appreciate that. Phone lines, of course, as well, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some comments that come up about local response, particularly, the whole May deadline we're talking about, or expectation anyway. And just want to include some of the local response that our news partners at KFOX 14 reached out to El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser for comment on what happened at the ports of entry over the weekend. And city spokesperson Laura Cruz Acosta said, quote, "This is a federal issue, and we continue to monitor the situation from our Emergency Operations Center. Once again, this is a federal issue that we are monitoring closely to ensure the community's safety." Now, some of the updates that were happening around the time of the announced and voted on ouster of the city manager was updates on what is expected towards, that middle of May, just before, like May 11th, give or take, as that is that next kind of expected potential inflection day when it comes to, the sunsetting of most administration pandemic restrictions, and as we've seen, as could be evidenced by one of the stated or at least suspected causes for the incident happening at the bridges, leading to the potential crossing over, but also there's a lot that was going into that, as just being basically an idea that was getting passed around erroneously of it being Migrants Day, which sure is a day on the calendar, but even on that day, and among other things, it's in December, does not actually have that kind of significance. Like, it's not a free pass kind of day. It's not opposite day or any of those kind of things. You can just declare things happen, or put it that way. Anyway, go to those phone lines now. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have Tony on the west side of the line with us here right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Getting to the point, which everybody else would do the same thing. Barbara is right on, of course, as usual. The only trouble with Barbara and the rest of the Republicans is they have no clue and no idea on how to battle against the Democrat machine. About Raul, we can say a lot of bad things about Raul. He criticizes the American way, the American life, the white Anglo-American who founded this country, while he gorges at the American table and stands on the American table and criticize this country that supports him. That being said, there is one good thing about Raul. He's not a sexual pervert as far as I know, but he does, like most Democrats, are starting to endorse sexual perversion. Barbara mentioned the pornography books that are creeping into the public schools. That's right. The pornography that is creeping into the public schools, and even, let me say under the umbrella of inclusivity, okay? That's how the school board gets away with it. Inclusivity, and then the suicide rate of the alternative lifestyle people. So they convince the school board to let the children watch sexual explicit books so that they can discover themselves. So Raul and the rest of you Democrats, God is going to force you to pick a side. And you don't want to be a sexual pervert promoter. Even Walmart, the last thing I'll say and I'll hang up, even Walmart at the corner of Yarborough and North Loop, when you go shopping there, they have the alternative lifestyle people on the intercom so that your little 3, 5, 4-year-old little girl can listen to sexual talk while you're shopping for cookies and milk. That's where we're at. So all you Democrats that keep promoting, and you're anti-Trump and anti-Republican, you hate him and you hate the Republicans so much that God is going to force you to go down that tunnel of perversion and supporting perversion. You'll be guilty of it because you don't stand against that sin. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for putting the call, Duke. Okay, I think we lost him there. He hung up. Anyway, okay, appreciate the point in the call. Let me just say there, I mean, everyone should and can, at least currently anyway, have the right to choose the way they want to live their life and go about it. And you can certainly choose yours. Let me draw a bright line here between, I mean, there has been instances of material I've seen and some have sent to me of stuff that has existed in school libraries. I mean, we're talking on just full-on sex acts being both described and depicted in certain ways for like elementary school. I'm not saying kids should be ignorant of what that is, but age appropriateness has to factor in. And frankly, the whole role of parents and all of this in determining what is appropriate for their children is paramount. But I'm going to draw a distinction, as I often do, between like that and actual, like beyond. Like if we start talking about specifics of sex acts with anyone, I mean, hell, even middle school, I have somewhat of an issue with, but I kind of remember what it was like to be a middle schooler and how the hormones are raging. So maybe more just discussion of what they need to know is important. Just put it that way. But being like having that available to them without perspective put onto it, particularly by their own parents, and like acknowledging the existence of the LGBTQ and people within it, I do not treat these as the same things, nor believe they should be done here. Frankly, as long as no one is hurting someone, I don't give much of a hoot on what they're doing with their lives or how they're doing it with it. Yeah, if they're actively seeking out to pedophiles, people who have committed acts should definitely be and often are and should probably be more held accountable and have repercussions coming from that. But let's just draw that distinction here. Anyway, let's go ahead and get at least one more phone call here on the line with us before we get to that next break. We do have Frankie and Messi on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right, right out of the box. I've been listening to Raul for the longest time. What have been calling you for 4 years or whatever? And every time he talks, there's nothing that he says that's incorrect. You can double check, triple check 14 different ways this Sunday, and everything he says is spot on. So I don't know why everybody's beating up on Raul. He's squared away. There's nothing wrong with what he says. Now, having said that, I came up and I heard that down there at the Bridge of the Americas, or one of the Broadway crossings in El Paso, the whole bunch of CBP law enforcement people, all battle rattle everything, are stopping a bunch of migrants coming over the bridge. Is that correct?
Yeah, estimated from dozens to maybe a couple hundred to maybe at least 1,000. I've seen a bunch of different estimates on this from the video that I've seen anyway, from like it wasn't the height of the confrontation or the height of some of the video from like bystanders or people in the crowd, maybe not bystanders, not the right phrase there. And I mean, it did look heated at certain points. There was definitely pushing. I mean, barbed wire set up among other things. So yeah, there was a large number of people, more than like a couple or a handful, in any case, that did kind of rush through the Mexican side of things, and then were stopped by barricades that had already been set up at the apex of the bridge, at the boundary between the U.S. and Mexico by CBP, Border Patrol related agencies, etc.
All right. Now, I've mentioned this a couple of times before when I've called in relative to the whole Southwest border migration issue, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm disconnected relative to this point. These people coming from whatever country to the United States of America, my point again for the umpteenth time, what is the matter with these people that can't figure out how to make their own country work? Why do we have to get the riffraff from the world dump on the United States of America just because they're mad or they're too chicken the stuff that chickens leave on the ground. You know what I'm talking about, right? But they're too chicken to fix their own country. And if they're going to come over here, and if they're that kind of person, what kind of person is that that's going to come over to the United States and help support the United States? If you're that much of a mushhead, that's my point.
Okay, you bring up a lot of concepts there. Let me just say in general, of course, the way the administration currently is going about this is, okay, they have technically, I mean, we're seeing the end of Title 42, or at the very least, it will be ended. Again, that May deadline that we keep talking about for a sunsetting of a lot of these policies. But then in addition to that, they've been focusing a lot on the CBP One app. At least some of the frustration that can be heard in some of the videos, particularly from those on the ground, mentions the CBP One app not working. Of course, U.S. officials, including a regional Border Patrol CBP spokesperson, have said that they are getting full up appointments here, so it's working enough that they're full up when it comes to them presenting themselves at our local points of entry. But to the idea of them needing to present themselves, that's been the big change that, of course, has been seen since, well, particularly since the start of this administration. We were seeing the kind of easing of Title 42 as of 2021. Once the inauguration happening, that was one of the first things that was announced. The way they were going to be handling this differently, and then, of course, doing away with like the Remain in Mexico policy. That was one of those Supreme Court decisions that came out in recent years as well, saying that, well, as it was a executive branch policy and not actually law, and deals entirely with foreign relations, it fell entirely within the purview of the executive branch, and therefore they were able to just kind of get rid of that. And yet it's definitely arguable that part of the policies that were in that, the whole Remain in Mexico policy, could be seen as being baked into the CBP One app, be getting in line for an appointment to apply for asylum, those kind of things. Now, I will say the concept of asylum overall, the point is for those, I mean, particularly political persecution, but also of other circumstances. And that's been one of the major debates going on in this country, of course, has been, what is the purpose of asylum? One of the more famous lines being said by forgetting the name offhand, but one of the Trump administration officials, that, asylum is not a remedy for all ills that exist in the world. So kind of getting into that reasoning, what you're getting at there. But the way the U.S. decides to deal with the, among other things, international guidelines that we have signed on to when it comes to asylum are pretty much at the crux and the core of, frankly, this entire immigration issue right now, as it has been one of the major parts that can be seen as a cause, or at least what is being called for by many of those that have crossed the border, whether legal or not, in recent years. Asylum has been one of those kind of sea change moments of being what they are calling for, and that's why, and again, this administration has definitely been very, very focused on.
All right, and I think the operative word, going through everything you just said, asylum. I understand that whole point there, Andrew, and everybody out there, and that's not much water region. I understand the asylum. Politically oppressed, religiously oppressed. Okay, I can get that. But what is this stuff? Economically depressed because you don't have a job? You're poor? You got 15,000 kids? And you keep pumping babies out? And because you can't get a job, you got to come over here to the United States of America and suck us dry with all the social stuff? No. You fix your own stuff in your own country and get the heck out. That's my point. Now, that might not sound too very liberal to you, but listen, I'm a learned liberal, and there's a right and a wrong. Just because I'm liberal doesn't mean that what I say is incorrect. That's what I want to say.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
And with that, okay, Tony, I think we have time for one more quick call on the line here. Again, if you call in the midst of a segment, you might get popped off live even before we greet you on the line here. So we got one such in hand right now. So you're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Oh, this is Rich.
Hey there, Rich. What's on your mind?
Well, I get a kick out of Raul and Frankie here. It's kind of fun to listen to them.
Okay.
But I just want to say something here. There's a saying by, I believe it's St. Francis of Assisi, who said, had a saying that goes kind of like, when you deal with the wise, you shall be wise. When you deal with the foolish, you shall be as they.
Okay.
And I can see why Frankie seems to follow Raul. And I just say, what do you have to say about that?
I mean, I think we have callers of all different kind of stripes, and even people who might otherwise seemingly agree with each other based on their avowed positions and stuff often find realms of disagreement. That's among one of the other reasons we refer to the comment section, particularly over on the Facebook page, is the Thunderdome, because yeah, let's just say consensus can be fleeting sometimes. So we appreciate different perspectives, and particularly those that are actually willing to discuss it, as opposed to just decrying others out and saying, well, essentially what it comes down to, if the analysis comes down, this person sucks and we shouldn't listen to them, that's the kind of thing we will tend to shy away from, because it's not discussion, it's just flaming.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and take that last break of this hour right now. So, good, we got a lot that we've talked about today and a lot that we will continue to do. So we'll tell you what we got coming up for you on the program. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. We got a little bit more that we'll get to here, so stay tuned. More after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
That earlier crash on eastbound Trans Mountain before the 54 Gateway at mile marker 19 is cleared. All lanes are back open. Exit ramp is blocked due to heavy congestion in the lower valley on the loop southbound at Pan American Drive. Slow traffic Montana Avenue eastbound Yarborough to Zaragoza, 8-minute delays. And ongoing road work has got the right lane closed on Alameda westbound at Yarborough out to Lafayette. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Want to save big on custom faux wood blinds, shutters, cellular shades, and more? Shop Blindster today and save up to 50% over comparable blinds from brick and mortar stores. Get custom blinds at low prices and free shipping at Blindster.com.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing. Or this one. I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better, unquote. Those are 2 of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-953-1788. 800-953-1788. 800-953-1788.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Did you know that only 2 in 10 El Paso County students graduate with a bachelor's degree? By supporting Border Youth Athletic Association's mission of educational attainment, you will create a long-lasting impact in our students' lives. Your monthly donation enables 4th through 12th grade students access to after-school programs, providing a safe and healthy environment. BYAA engages and empowers El Paso's future through mentorship and leadership development. We believe every player who gets an education wins. Do you? Go to borderyouth.org and show your support for our youth today.
Hip, knee, or back pain? See if Arch Supports can help you at the Good Feet store.
What does the sound of a school bell bring to mind? Homeroom? Lunchtime? The day's end? Or the end of school entirely, as in kids dropping out? At Communities in Schools, we work directly inside schools to help those students whose ability to come to school is often jeopardized by hardships, the loss of a loved one, poverty, lack of housing, or bullying. Hear from a few students whose lives we have touched.
They've always had my back. They've always done anything to help me.
At Communities in Schools, we empower students to succeed in and out of the classroom.
They've been there for when I've had any questions, any problems personally. Anytime I needed support, they were there.
Our mission is to ensure that at-risk kids have someone by their side.
It means a lot to hear graduate. It's just a big accomplishment.
Communities in Schools never gave up on me. They told me I can do it, and I did it.
Communities in Schools. We're in schools to help kids stay in school. See how we help all students succeed at communitiesinschools.org.
Not on my watch, our military service members say, as they volunteer to serve. As they move out, stand firm, and take fire. So not on our watch, we say, to the severely ill or injured veterans who can't get the care they deserve to live full and independent lives, even when there's no government funding or a nursing home seems like the only option. We won't leave one warrior behind. Not on our watch. Join us at findwwp.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, or having done so anyway. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Covered a lot of ground today, and I'm sure we'll do again so tomorrow. A lot more coming up for you here, including a lot of stuff on the Texas legislature, the votes that have been happening there, as well as just a lot of issues here. And let's just make it clear on some of the stuff that is going on. If you're wanting to talk about the issues, if you want to talk about the things that affect us here, or even the things other people are discussing, that's going to be the place to do it. If anyone's coming at me with, well, this person sucks and we shouldn't hear from them anymore, that's never going to fly, because, as I've made it abundantly clear since day one, or I'd like to think so, we're here for the discussion. So, sure, we got good, bad, middle, and in between, whatever that comes on here. They'll try to respond to it in tune. But if you're trying to say, nope, we're not allowed to hear from this person because I decided, or I've given them the worst name I can think of to give them here, and you're not actually even talking about what they're talking about, I'll get right out of my face with that. So we'll keep doing that. And yeah, this is the Thunderdome, among other things, for many other reasons, but we'll have to leave it there for today because we are out of time here for this program. So again, we'll do it again tomorrow, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. So until then, until next time, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No delays or crashes on your El Paso freeways this hour. Some heavy congestion blocking the exit ramp in the Lower Valley on Loop 375 southbound at the Pan American exit. An accident reported downtown El Paso Street at Father Ram. And overnight road construction on I-10 eastbound between Vinton and Red. Roadways reduced to one lane due to road work. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Our goal is to make March an all-time record month in sales, so we'll do whatever it takes to make a deal. Don't wait. Visit us today for huge savings.
Save big on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Upside down your car, truck, or SUV? We want it, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Right now, get $3,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500s, plus super low 4.9% APR for 72 months. Get $4,000 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport, or $4,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee L models. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Trade and upgrade for less at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive, or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 4.9% APR is $1,606 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA.